Now it's the first semi-final of the Driver World Cup, and the TaylorMade SIM and the Ping G410 are both head-to-head to find out who's going to get a place in the Driver World Cup final. Now I think this is going to be a really close one, so we better get on with it. Now the SIM was the first to book its place in the semi-final, so I think it makes sense to start here. If you don't know the drill by now, we're going to hit 10 balls and then we'll have a look at the data. I don't think I could have physically hit that any straighter. I have to say, pretty consistent so far. Okay, that was definitely my best strike yet, and it's shown because it's flown about an extra 15 yards. Okay, that's 10 shots here, and I do feel like I was pretty consistent there. I would say maybe there was a slight left bias, if anything, which does match what I've seen out on the course and when I've tested this on other times, but let's take a bit of a deeper look at the data. Now back when we did the best driver testing, this was one of the longest clubs, so it's no surprise to see that I've got a bit extra distance. So my average carry was 223 yards, probably about 5 yards further than we'd have seen in previous weeks. And that's just because my club head speed was up, so 96 miles an hour, which obviously follows that sim story all about that reshaping and increasing that club head speed. My longest shot was actually up at 231 yards, which is pretty good for me. And also I was getting ball speeds in the 140, which is also quite rare, so in terms of distance this is really kind of helping me out. And I would say it was fairly consistent. I had one where I kind of hit it out the toe, I didn't strike it very good, so my smash went down to 1.4. But the rest of them were really all high kind of 1.4s or even 1.5s in smash factor, so still really efficient in terms of ball speed, even though I've got more club head speed. If you look at dispersion, there definitely is more of a left bias, but what I would say is there really isn't a really big left, it's just slightly left of target. And I think for a lot of consumers that is kind of favourable because most club golfers are typically slicers, so this is going to kind of help you out if that is your shot shape. Now for me personally, I already hit a little draw, so sometimes that left bias isn't going to help me, but really there was nothing that I was overly worried about, and the dispersion was still pretty tight. If I was being picky, I would say the height was a bit inconsistent. I had a few that were quite a bit lower or higher, so really that was probably the biggest variable that I noticed the difference rather than kind of dispersion or speed. Right, let's hit some shots with the ping and see how they compare. Now straight away you can feel this feels slightly heavier, and also the head shaping looks a bit bigger over the ball compared to the sim. So it does really feel like you can't swing it quite as fast in comparison. However, that strike was really solid, so even though I swung it slightly slower, the efficiency of the strike was really good, so I was still getting those ball speeds. That's two 1.51 smashes in a row. The sim, better beware. I have to say, I prefer the look of the sim, but I really do just love the feel off the face with this driver. Not at that one. I'm not gonna lie, I literally just striked them. I mean, I did nearly sky one, but other than that, the rest were really solid. I think this might do the TaylorMade on distance here, which is definitely not what I was expecting. But let's go and double check with the numbers. Okay, so I actually hit 11 shots there in the end because I don't know what happened in the middle. I think I had a moment. I nearly skied on it, only just flew 200. Definitely wasn't the driver's fault, and it definitely wasn't consistent with any of the other numbers, so I'm just going to take it out in terms of fairness. Honestly, I can't believe how far this went. Really, when we did the testing last time for best drivers, this probably was really consistent in terms of dispersion, but wasn't one of the longest. So I really didn't think it was going to do much on distance in terms of the sim. But the average distance here was 226, so it has just pipped the TaylorMade by 3 yards. I mean, I had one shot at 215, but all the rest were in the 220s, like comfortably, or even in the 230s, so yeah, I'm really surprised. Now in terms of best shot, the longest shot I hit here was 234 compared to 231 with the sim, so again, the same 3-yard gap. Another thing that did also surprise me was it also was probably a little bit left bias. I do like to hit a draw, but last time this was definitely more neutral down the target line compared to the sim, so in terms of dispersion they're probably going to be pretty similar, and definitely in terms of kind of skew they were both a bit left biased. I think this is probably the best way for us to compare the data, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see here, definitely on carry distance the ping is better than the sim. Obviously it's not massive, but we know in distance every yard counts, so 3 yards further in carry, not going to really bother with total, because as I've said before, it's not that consistent inside from the launch monitor. Now lateral, both very similar, but as I said, both slightly left bias, so we're both slightly better at the 8 compared to the 10. Now club head speed, this is really interesting because the sim I swing it faster, so that's why I just thought I was going to hit it further, and that is what I've seen in the past. I've seen that I have more distance with the sim. So even though I swung it like 2 miles an hour slower with the ping, I've got more distance and more ball speed. So that's really just showing you how efficient this kind of strike is off the club face. And I guess that's directly compared to what we see in the smash factor here, with the smash factor being a lot higher with the ping. And in terms of consistency, 1.49 as an average for a smash, that's really impressive, and that's just going to give you that really consistent distance in terms of kind of back dispersion. Now I would say although the vertical height here looks quite similar, I mean I was hitting them both very high, probably a bit higher than I would actually like on the course. The sim was definitely a bit more inconsistent, so I had a few kind of extreme lows and extreme highs, whereas the ping was all quite high, just more consistently that high. In terms of shot shape, I was happy with them both. As I say, I like to hit a draw. I was hitting a draw with them both. It was a pretty consistent shot shape, and to be honest, I was really happy with that. And for those of you who were watching last week, and I said I was going to improve my attack angle, I have by about 6 degrees, so that's good. Maybe that's why I've seen some distance gains. Okay, final thing to consider then, dispersion. I don't think I've ever seen two drivers that have such a similar kind of dispersion spread and such a similar shape in terms of like over the target line. It's actually a bit uncanny really. And to be honest, the variables are really similar in terms of surface area. So the ping is slightly tipping the TaylorMade. It's coming in at just under 1,000 square yards compared to like 1,100 square yards with the TaylorMade. But as we saw with the distance, the 3 yards different, it's really not massive, but it just does have that slight edge. And I kind of think that is what we've seen throughout the day. These two are very similar in terms of performance, but the ping just has had that slight edge in nearly each category. Right, that's all for today. Make sure you head back to our channel to find out who the ping is going to face in the final of the Driver World Cup. We've got the Callaway Maverick and the Ben Hogan going head to head in the next semi-final, so make sure you keep your eyes out for that too. And if you're after more golf content, head over to the NCG social media channels.